Where we have a significant amount of room for growth is in the online community building and the online student support. The recent Chloe report shows that student support for a quarter of the institutions that were surveyed is not currently offered. So lots of room and opportunity for growth there. Now, this is the view from administrators. This data comes from administrators that were surveyed, but I think it's also really important to look at the student voice and look at what the student concerns are as well in terms of their online learning. The things that jump out to me here are balancing education with non-academic obligations and adapting to an online or remote learning environment. We know that students that are part of online institutions aren't necessarily looking for social connection, perhaps in the way a student attending a physical campus might be, but they are looking for someone who can help them navigate their experience. They are looking for peers that have had similar experiences and are just a few steps ahead of them, navigating all of the different things that come with being an online student. So what I think that leads us to is an opportunity to really reimagine what community looks like for those online learners. And this is where we're really going to be able to have some fantastic conversation with our team from Arizona Online. So I promised you all that I would not be doing a majority of the speaking, and I will stay true to that promise. And with that, I'd really love to bring in the team from Arizona Online to talk to us a little bit about how they're defining student success through the purview of each of their individual roles. Carmen, do you want to kick us off?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Emily, and welcome everybody. So to me and for our online student success team within Arizona Online, student success for us means empowering our students to achieve what they came here and set out to do. And we do that by cultivating a learning environment that offers our students a sense of belonging as an Arizona Wildcat along their journey.
Heidi, what about you?
Yeah, thank you, Emily. So I'm a student success coach here at Arizona Online. And when I think about student success, I don't think so much about the numbers, like the retention and the persistence. Those are important. But for me, it's really about what that student's experience is. Are they connected to our institution? Do they feel supported? Are they connected to their peers? So I think for me, that's what it's really about. And of course, when students are connected, they do have a sense of belonging and they do persist, and we see those numbers go up anyways.
And Caleb, love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, thanks, Emily, and thanks, Carmen and Heidi. And before we get started, I'm looking at all the participants, and I also want to say, like, what an awesome turnout and a great space to be with a bunch of people that are thinking about student success. And so I'm really excited to engage in this conversation. And I mean, at Arizona Online, as I think it is for most of the people tuning in, student success is the name of the game, and it's holistic. It's ensuring that students that we recruit and enroll, this is a good fit for them. Then when they get here, that we fulfill our promise to them. We deliver them all the things that they need to be successful, both here at the university and beyond. So student success is a holistic journey from the first time we get an RFI all the way through the end of our students' career here and into their future. So that, for us, it's really a holistic approach.
That's really fantastic to hear, Caleb. And I love that you focus so much on that holistic approach. I think hearing from each individual member of your team, we can see how you're approaching that from a little bit of a different angle, right? Based on the work that you're doing with students. And I think that holistic approach is really coming through. So with that, I'd love to hear more about your goals, Caleb, for Arizona Online in relation to growth.
Yeah, in my role, this is something that I think about a lot. We need to grow. We need to increase enrollments. We looking for new ways to bring in revenue. And as we think about this within the online space, oftentimes we really focus on marketing, recruitment, and enrollment. But when we look a little bit more broadly at what growth means holistically, if we're turning out students, we're not retaining them, we're not helping them persist, we're never going to meet the full potential of our growth, because we are losing our students. If you want to think about it in business terms, we're losing those customers that we've already paid to acquire. So I think the growth is completely intertwined, not just with new students, but it's those students that we have, and as I said before, fulfilling that promise to them to ensure that they are that they're able to meet their goals and grow with us.
Fantastic. And do you want to take us through some of your growth over the last few years?
Yeah, and this approach to Arizona Online has been very successful. You can see our steady growth trends here from spring of 2018 until now. Consistently getting double-digit percentage growth. This past year being over 13% in growth, and as we're hitting these sort of numbers, approaching that 10,000 student mark, like it becomes increasingly hard to keep up that trend, but we've been able to do it. And it's really about this, bringing in new students. Of course, we want to do that, but those students that we have, if they're going out the back door as quick as they can come in, and we look at national averages across online space at being somewhere around 55%, this means half of those students, half of that investment that we've made and the revenues potentially there are going out the door. So as we're thinking about how we grow and how we maintain an investment into the student success team and ensuring that students are part of a community, they're achieving their goals, they have a sense of belonging, all of this is vital to being able to achieve our overall growth goals that we're shooting for. And it's really, real quick, sorry, one last thing, because and when we think about investment in student success, when you do a simple crunch of the numbers, you see if you can change your retention by 1 or 2%, that goes a long way for overall return. So, as much as you can spend in marketing, you spend that on student success, and you actually see a pretty even correlation between the return that you're getting there.
I love that your vision for growth in student success includes both new students and continuing students. Thinking about that, Carmen, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you're translating this vision for growth into strategies for Arizona Online.
Thank you. Yeah, as Caleb talked about, retention is such an important factor in us, being able to help grow our overall student body. But, as I mentioned in the earlier question, really to us, retention at the end of the day is about getting our students to the finish line. It's not just that 1 year snapshot, when we capture iPads data each fall, although that's important to pay attention to and use as a yardstick in measuring our success. But, we serve a diverse student body who come in with a lot of different aspirations for why they're pursuing education at this time. And so our online student success team is supporting both our degree seeking students as well as our non-degree seeking students, our undergraduate students and our graduate students. And so we really look holistically at student success. And when we think about retention and really recognizing it's about helping that student accomplish what they came here to do and to get the credential or the learning outcomes that they wanted to achieve, and helping to support that journey. And so we do that by helping to foster a sense of belonging for our students as Arizona Wildcats. Our unit is embedded within the University of Arizona, and we work closely with our partners across the institution, but it's about translating elements of the in-person student experience into ways that are accessible virtually for our student population, who are Wildcats from anywhere. And so, initiatives like MentorCats offer us a really important tool in which to help foster that. We also work together with our colleagues across the institution to help make sure that the learning environment that our students are a part of is responsive to their unique needs as adult learners, knowing that they have different reasons for being here, different motivations behind what they're pursuing, and also have some unique challenges along their journey. And so working with our colleagues across the institution in order to help make our institution a more friendly place for adult learners and post-traditional students like those who we serve. And so last but not least, it comes through developing a community. We recognize we don't do this alone within Arizona Online. Much of our work happens in coordination and collaboration with our partners across the institution, and where we're really trying to make the University of Arizona a more friendly place for post-traditional student populations like those who we serve in Arizona Online.
That's so exciting to hear that you're able to have that type of cross-campus collaboration to really make, as you said, Arizona Wildcats from anywhere feel like they're a part of the campus community. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about why you decided to prioritize mentorship as part of your student success strategy.
Yeah, I mean, we know that the literature in higher ed shows, that high impact practices like mentorship really have a disproportionately positive impact on retention and persistence for students. And so we really kind of challenged ourselves as our central team to figure out how can we find a way to do this in a way that adapts to the unique needs of our student population, but where we're really leveraging what we know works in this space for any college student, no matter whether they're a traditional student or a post-traditional student. And so, we originally started by looking at, in partnership with colleagues and units across the institution. We have some really amazing mentorship programs here at the University of Arizona, but they tend to be very focused on in-person student populations and are much more niche in terms of their focus and the scalability. And so then that really pushed us to think about how can we do mentorship at scale? We have almost 10,000 students, and we want as many of them as possible to benefit from this high impact practice. And that's really what led us to start to look at different ways to envision that in a virtual space, and what put us in touch with the Mentor Collective team.
Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about who your students are. I'd love for you to share more about your student population and who you're serving.
Yeah, so our Arizona Online Student Success team conducts an annual student experience survey, which we've done since our early years, since 2018. And this annual survey really helps to tell us things about our student population that you can't find just by looking at their enrollment data or kind of standard institutional metrics. And so, when we asked our students, about their life experiences and the other things that they have, we know that the majority of our students, both undergraduate and graduate, are married or in a domestic partnership and have significant family responsibilities happening alongside their academic pursuits. We also know that our student populations, both undergrad and graduate, are more likely to be working significantly, not just a sort of part-time job, but almost 40% of our undergraduates and almost half of our graduate students work more than 40 hours a week. So they have a significant work commitment or career happening alongside their school experiences. We also serve a very large military affiliated population, and this includes both veterans, active duty service members, and as well as dependents and spouses. We really look at this kind of in a holistic way when we talk about military affiliation, because all of those different subpopulations have some of the same challenges alongside of balancing military life alongside other pursuits. And so, when we asked our students a little bit more about their experience, we really wanted to try to understand from them, how are they feeling as being a part of the University of Arizona? And, we were happy to see that the majority of our students, almost 3/4 of them, do feel like they belong within the University of Arizona. But we also see that there are discrepancies sometimes between those who want active peer support and peer engagement and those who actually feel like they're getting the level of connection that they want to have as part of their experience. And so that told us, we have an opportunity here. And even for the ones who may not prioritize this as part of their student experience, we know that they can benefit from it, and they may not have wanted it at the time this particular snapshot occurred, but that circumstances may change along their way, and they want to have opportunities to connect with their classmates and others in order to help foster those mentor opportunities to build on their careers and think about future steps in their life. And so that sense of belonging was a very common theme that we saw echoed particularly at our undergraduate survey. And then on the graduate side of the house, they also were looking for a sense of belonging. Sometimes they were looking for that more from their faculty or from departmental contacts because of the nature of kind of where they were focused in their program. And so that told us that while both populations were seeking a sense of belonging and connectedness to our university, we needed to take a slightly different approach between the two. And that's what led us to think about, as we were growing and scaling this program, being able to leverage that same kind of platform, but differentiating it for our undergrad and grad populations distinctly. We also ask our students, again, keeping in mind that we're embedded within the university and there are some really great resources that our students have access to across their time as a student. We also want to make sure that we're helping to really support them in the areas where we know they need the most help or where they're looking for feedback and support services. And so unsurprisingly, our fully online students rely heavily on different IT support. So 24/7 IT is something that we offer for all university students and is something heavily utilized. D2L, we're a D2L Brightspace campus, and so having support for them in that LMS environment is something that's very important to them. We also saw that our students, do utilize things like our tutoring resources, Think Tank, our career services, student engagement and career development, or SECD department, and writing skills improvement programs, but not necessarily to the level that we thought or expected that they were going to. And so that told us that there was perhaps a gap of their knowledge of those services and something where, again, a peer mentor or others could help to get them plugged into the right support service at the right time. And so really at the end of the day, how they're navigating through the university, this is where those peer-to-peer connections, that advice from one student to another can be so powerful in helping them get plugged into the right resources at the right time.
Love that.
Another piece that we asked our students in the survey, and this is one of my all-time favorite questions that we were really able to dig into the qualitative open response data about, was asking our students, when things get tough, we know for online students that it is a complex journey sometimes for them navigating towards achieving their degree aspirations. So when things get tough for them personally or academically, what can we do to help motivate them or support them along that journey so that they can push forward? And so there were 5 kind of overarching themes that really emerged in the qualitative data. First and foremost, they talked about the importance of having an opportunity for second chances and just empathy, like for the realities of the life that they're balancing alongside school. And so having folks, who understand that their version of the college experience is quite different than what a traditional residential campus student is perhaps navigating through, and that those staff and faculty and others help to normalize those challenges and can help support them along their journey. They also talked about how important it is for them to have very timely or responsive feedback. And, because many of our classes are accelerated and follow a more condensed format, there's urgency sometimes when questions or bumps in the road come up along the way. And so having resources that they can rely on just in time in that moment becomes really important when they're looking for advice or trying to help overcome an obstacle on the journey.
And what did you see on the graduate student side in terms of their concerns in the online learning environment?
We definitely saw, for students in the graduate space in particular, that they wanted to feel connected as part of their experience, but that there was sometimes frustration that they felt that the events and other things that were being promoted were not things available to them because they were things that were physically in person and happening in Tucson, and they felt like, it actually made them feel more disconnected when they heard about all the cool stuff happening on campus that they didn't have access to. And so it further underscored, how important it was to help make sure that we're being intentional in our communication with students and helping to not only provide virtual options for events and programming that we offer, but really, thinking about how we're framing that and helping to help them feel seen and valued and having access as well when we're communicating with them. We also, heard from them that, they really wanted to, again, have that opportunity to feel a part of the community within their particular programs. And so, wanting to have intentional programming that was set up perhaps specifically for them or where they're working closely with their departments. And then they also, just like undergrads, like all students, we all have those moments of imposter syndrome where, we second guess whether or not we are making the right choice or second guessing, how we should navigate through a particular problem or challenge. And so they also echoed wanting to be able to have that reassurance or advice from others to make sure that they're on the right path, they're heading in the right direction, that they're planning for what they want to do after graduation with feedback and advice from others who've been through similar circumstances. And so all of these things told us they're seeking this sense of connection and that they're ultimately wanting to be able to have that kind of feedback loop. And those are feedback loops that a peer support system like a mentorship program can help to provide as well.
Yeah, I think that's, thank you for setting that up so nicely. When we look at the journey to student success, I think a lot of the things that we see here are things that came out in that assessment that you've completed, or these are resources that the institution is investing in. But as you mentioned, students either may not be aware that these exist, they might think that they're not for them. There might be some trepidation or imposter syndrome in accessing these resources. And what we've really seen is that Mentor Collective as that vehicle through peer mentorship can really help to support increasing resource utilization and driving students to these resources that we have clearly seen that they want and they need as part of their success in their educational journey. I just wanted to highlight a couple of insights that we've seen from the 48 mentorship programs that we're running for online students. We've worked with tens of thousands of online students, and we're seeing that, again, they might not be craving that social connection in the same way, but they are definitely craving personal contact. And I know one of your large goals was to be able to make that personalized contact scalable, right? And make it personalized at scale. We're seeing that close to 30% of online students are hoping to interact with their mentor once or twice a month, but over 20% are looking for contact once a week. And I think it's that reassurance that you've mentioned a few times. Just, am I doing the right things? Am I on the right path? Online students also value identity-based connection. Over 40% of our online student mentees indicate that speaking the same language, having shared academic interests and shared interests outside of school, as well as shared challenges in life, should really factor into their match. And I think what's so exciting when looking at the Arizona Online program is that when we look at the student population that you serve, they're working, they have family obligations, and they're looking to connect with someone who is also managing their online education while still taking care of their family and working more than 40 hours a week. So it's really exciting to see that. You mentioned a lot throughout that assessment data, timely support, and this is one of the ways that Mentor Collective can really support the online student journey. So when we look at these areas of creating strong community and timely support by being able to respond to students, to that urgency that students feel, either through a peer or by having that peer flag to the institution a challenge that the student is experiencing. I think, and I know Heidi will dive into this a little bit deeper, being able to provide that in near real-time support for students. So Heidi, I would love to hear a little bit more about, or for you to share with our audience a little bit more about the Mentor Cats program.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. So our program started in summer of 2022. That was the first semester that we launched. And we were really surprised by how many students wanted to participate right off the bat. And we were really happy with that. So we had more than 800 students get matched with a mentor within the first 2 semesters that the program launched. And we realized, so initially we only launched to our undergraduate students, but we realized that this was such a great program, we wanted to offer it to our graduate students. So our administration, thank you, Caleb, went ahead and agreed to that, and we were able to launch and expand the program to our graduate students as well, which that decision came down in March. So I'm happy to say we launched our grad program this fall. Students are being matched as we speak, which is awesome.
Awesome. So Carmen, can you tell us a little bit about the impact that you've seen on peer relationships as it relates to retention and persistence?
Yeah, I'm happy to share that as of our most recent IPED census snapshot, which happened just about a week ago, that we saw dramatic increases in our retention rates over the course of the last year, which we attribute to a variety of factors and initiatives, but where we've seen that there was a disproportionately positive effect for populations who were part of the Mentor Cats program. And so our first-time full-time retention rate increased by almost 22% year over year, up to just shy of 70%, which is a really amazing rate for the population who we support and serve. But we saw increases across the board with all of our different IPEDS cohorts, including our first-time part-time population, our transfer full-time and transfer part-time populations. And so overall, when we bake together all of our collective retention rates, looking across the different cohorts, we saw almost a 2% increase in our retention year over year, for a population that has grown consistently, as Caleb talked about earlier. And so when we looked at that, more specifically for the students who were part of the VentureCats program and who had this particular kind of control factor that or participation, we saw a disproportionately positive impact for students, particularly from our first year cohorts, where we saw that they retained at even stronger levels than we saw across the board in terms of increases. And then we saw, a strong effect for our transfer full-time population, but less of an effect for our part-time population. And so that tells us that, we know that there have been many positive impacts of the program, and that by and large, this, I think, has really helped to contribute to the improvements that we've seen in our retention across the board. But we also know that we're going to need to dig in deeper, particularly looking at our transfer part-time population, which is a very important constituent group when we think about our student population in the online space, and really think about how we can help increase their awareness of this program and resource, and help ensure that it's having, a positive impact across the board for all of our different groups of students.
Mhm. And I love that you're breaking this down by cohort and really diving into where the impacts are. So Caleb, I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on, scaling mentorship. Is it worth the investment?
Yeah, thanks, Emily. And this is something that was, like anybody else, when we see some of the numbers coming from our peers are interested. So we dipped our toes in and did a little pilot, and then it became pretty obvious that there was student interest, there was student engagement, and these were both leading to better outcomes. And so again, I'm no financial whiz, but it wasn't that hard to crunch the numbers to think about, the threshold that we needed to pay, and then the threshold that this would return. And then that's, just the dollars and cents, but then also the impact on individual lives and those connections. So you never want that to get lost, because our mission is not to make $1 billion. Our mission is to serve these students. So armed with those two things, it was very easy then to go to my boss, Vice Provost Craig Wilson, and say, look, we can do what we set out to do, and we can generate a great return on investment. And at that point, it's easy for us all to agree, like we gotta scale this up for everybody if we really want to do our jobs. And so end of the day, it was super easy.
Awesome. Well, I love hearing that, and that we can do good and make impact, make a significant impact at the same time. Heidi, I'd love to pose the same question to you, but speaking more to how this has impacted the time that you spend with students and the way that you interact with your students.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. I would say, for us to implement this large of a mentorship program without Mentor Collective really would have been difficult, maybe impossible, because we don't have a staff member whose only role, is to do the mentorship program. So because we have Mentor Collective as a partner, they're doing a lot of that kind of logistical work, like matching students and, having the dashboard and presenting a lot of data for us. And so I can really focus on working with those students. So I'm going to talk about flags here in a minute, but when a flag comes in regarding a student, regarding a concern, I can reach out to that student and provide support or get them connected to the right place. So it really gives me the time to dedicate to working with those individual students, and not so much on, all of those logistical pieces of matching students and all of those things.
I love that you brought up flags, and I'd really love to hear a little bit more about how this full life cycle mentorship has created a culture of engagement and community for the students at Arizona Online.
Yeah, so when you think about asynchronous online education and classes, it feels there's a lot of isolation for students. They can't, like an in-person classroom, they can't just turn to the student next to them and ask them a question, or if the instructor's up there speaking and they see the faces of their students and they can see they're confused, we don't have that in an asynchronous online class. So with the mentorship program, we can be intentional about building that opportunity for connection among our students that they otherwise may not have in an online environment. So that's been really wonderful for us to be able to do for our students.
And let's take a look at the engagement that you've seen in the Mentor Cats program.
Yeah, so in our first year of launch, we had 848 students matched with a mentor, which is about 20% of our undergraduate online population. So that was huge. It definitely was more than I anticipated we would see. We had 189 peer mentors that are completely volunteers to do this service. They're not paid. And the conversations that came through, we had over 2,000 conversations between our mentors and mentees. And this is really important because looking at Mentor Collective's data, they've found that if students have at least 3 conversations or more, they're almost 12% more likely to persist. So we really were looking at those conversation numbers and just seeing what that interaction was among our students. And then we did have 55 flags that were raised by mentors, and I'll get into flags a little bit more in a few minutes, but basically our mentors, when they're having a conversation with a mentee, if a concern comes up that the mentor feels like they need to share with us, with the staff at U of A, we can go ahead and then connect with that mentee or offer resources. So here, this is kind of talking about like what our peer mentors do. And then what our mentees are getting out of the program. So our mentors are sharing their own experiences. You know, they're getting down in there talking about how, you know, what challenges they've had, what successes they have had, and sharing that with their mentees. They're also able to connect students with different resources on campus that, you know, they may not be aware of. And I think a really important thing is that they're normalizing asking for help, and that, you know, seeking help is okay, and they should do that. As I mentioned, I think in online, students sometimes feel isolated, they feel alone, and having a mentor can help them understand like, hey, no, there's this whole, you know, network of support built in here at University of Arizona to help you. And it's okay to reach out. Like, that's what they're there for. And so we match students based on their different interests. So our mentees and mentors are able to connect about whatever they want to, if they want to talk about their hobbies or activities that they both enjoy, really building that relationship. And so our mentees are learning that, you know, there's other people like them here in the online program. They're not alone. There are resources to help them out. They can get involved in different things. And they also can help them with, you know, study strategies, time management. As we know, our students are balancing so much all while they're taking their classes.
I think this also really speaks to that reimagining of community, right? It might look a little bit different. As you're saying, students can't turn to one another in a classroom. They are feeling isolated, but we're still seeing that impact on normalizing help-seeking behavior and connecting students to resources, which is really exciting. So I want to ask you a little bit more about how Mentor Collective has supported your unique timeline considerations for your online student population.
Yeah, so I think our next slide kind of gives a visual of what our admission cycle looks like. We don't have a traditional like admit students in the fall and spring. We are admitting students basically every 7 weeks. So we have start dates every 7 weeks. And so Mentor Collective was really wonderful in working with us to be able to invite students to participate in the program on a rolling basis. So whether they start in the end of summer or, you know, halfway through the fall, they can still get connected with their mentor and matched. So this has been really wonderful that we, you know, can recruit these students throughout the entire year.
I love that. And I think that also speaks a little bit to the way that Mentor Collective works. When we look here at our partnership approach, as Heidi and Carmen and Caleb know very, very well, we always want to start with our goals and outcomes. You know, how are we defining success? What are the goals for this program? What are some of the things that we're trying to impact? And then we go through the process of recruiting, training, matching the students, right? Providing them with opportunities to have some professional development, resource guides, and then we look at the data and Heidi, Carmen, you had mentioned earlier, right? We've identified a population of students where we know we can do a little bit more with. And I think that really speaks to that tracking and informing, looking at the assessment data, looking at what's coming in from the peer mentors, and then iterating. And this timeline, making sure that we're able to invite students according to the timeline of your institution, of your start terms, is part of that iterative partnership approach from Mentor Collective, making sure that we're really able to meet the needs of our partners each in their own unique way. So with that, and I know we're going to finally get into flags here now, but I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you're using that data to create a holistic view of the online student experience.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So yes, we are using our flags. Like I mentioned, a mentor can go in and enter a flag if they have a concern that their mentee has brought up and they want some staff to go ahead and respond to that. So we can see, in real time what kind of flags are coming in. So for example, in September, we might see that academic struggles are peaking, which makes sense. They're, probably at their midterms at that point. And we can go ahead and offer that support in real time. So we might offer like a think tank tutoring workshop and advertise that to our students so that we can target our communication to meet their needs at that moment. Because we know that our students are juggling a lot of things all at once.
I think this really speaks to some of the trends that you all have been seeing, but what does it look like at an individual level as well?
Yeah, so these are actually some of the individual flags that came through. So we can see students are concerned about juggling, taking care of their children and taking classes and working, navigating our LMS system, D2L. So we're able to go ahead and provide follow-up to that student, get them connected to time management resources, their advisor. We can refer them over to the tutoring center. So it's really great that we can realize that these students are having these concerns when they're happening. A lot of times, students will not tell their advisor that they're struggling, and their advisor will get a report at the end of the semester that the student failed, and then they do their outreach. But if we can get to them right when they're, having a problem, we can get them help right away before, they don't do well.
What you said resonates with me so much as someone who used to be in that advisor role. The worst thing that could happen to me is a student coming with withdrawal paperwork and me not knowing that they were struggling or that they were having challenges. So I love that this provides information back to the institution in the moment when the student actually needs that support. Tell us a little bit more about what you've seen. So we've talked about flags, right? Those are more of the concerns and alerts as students are dealing with challenges, but how has the conversations and the data around that also helped contribute to this holistic view?
Yeah, so kind of similar, we can see, what students are talking about, what are the hot topics and when, so that we can target our outreach to meet those needs. So, we can see students are getting to know each other in August. They're really busy. It's kind of overwhelming at the start. And then coming into September, we see they're talking a lot about academics, like we saw with the flags as well. That's a hot topic because they're having their first exams, and we can really tailor our outreach to meet their needs based on what they're talking about and when. So this is just giving us some extra insight into, what our students need and how we can accommodate that the best.
So we've seen kind of the power of this peer-powered platform. You've been able to delve into all of these intriguing insights about your students. I would love to pose this question to all of you. Heidi, maybe if you want to start, what has been the most surprising thing that you've discovered?
I think for me, the most surprising thing was the amount of students who did want to participate. Like, I knew students were thirsty for this peer connection. I knew students would join, but I didn't know, because our students are so busy, balancing work, children, families, and classes. I didn't know if they would carve out the time to do this. And then how many, students are going to volunteer their time to be a mentor without being paid. I wasn't quite sure, but I was really happily surprised to see that students really want to make those connections. And a lot of our mentors, they want to provide help to their fellow students. And that was really amazing to see.
Carmen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo, Heidi's comment as well. We knew that there was demand here. Our students had told us that's what informed our decision to lean in this space. But just to see how many of them were willing to lean in and give their time, and how eager they were to give back, and how valuable they found it. When we looked at their sense of belonging snapshot data, we do micro surveys in partnership with Mentor Collective as well. Seeing the increase in the sense of belonging for both mentors and mentees, that dual benefit that both of these populations gain by participating in a program like this and a high impact practice like this, was just really reaffirming that we're doing the right thing in this space to help provide this opportunity. That's what helped to make the case for us to want to continue to expand it and really try to broaden this impact as broadly as we could.
Yeah, and I mean, I have to echo both of these, that the rapid amount of people signing up for it, especially on the mentor side, has been something that really surprised me. And when I say rapid, like we just, maybe this is telling too much, but when we launched the pilot, I believe it was at 500 matches, and that was supposed to get us through the first year, and it was like months, like not even nowhere close to a year, and we were at it and over. And Mentor Collective was just like, you hit the cap already, and they let us keep going because let's just see like how far we could ride this. And and it reminds me that we ask our students sometimes, like, what do you want, what do you need? And they're like, community. And we're like, all right, I'll hold a town hall. Like, that's not community, right? They don't want community with me. They want it with their peers. So giving them an opportunity to use technology that they use to communicate in their regular lives, to empower them to connect with one another. Like, students, we need to, especially in online space, give them more credit. They will drive these things. They will give back. They want everyone to succeed. And we should harness that power and use it to help everyone do better.
I love that. And I think what I'm really hearing all of you highlight is just that demand, the appetite for connection and for community. Caleb, you made me chuckle when you mentioned the town hall. As I mentioned, I did my graduate degree online, and we had what was called a coffee house space. This was open to administrators. It was open to faculty. It was not a space where you could go in and kind of ask the question that you didn't feel comfortable asking your advisor. You didn't want your professor to know you were asking. Or perhaps say, hey, I'm really struggling, right? So I think that is kind of how things were set up previously. And I think we're seeing through the numbers, through the level of engagement, that there is such a strong demand for these peer connections and for authentic connections with students. So we have a couple of questions that have come in through the Q&A that I want to address just before we move on. One, I will go ahead and answer. The other I want to pose to the Arizona Online team. So a question came in about having structured conversations. Do mentors have structured conversations they go through with the mentees, or are all conversations driven by what the mentee wants to discuss? So great question. And one of the things that Mentor Collective does is collect student goals. We ask students, what are your goals for being in this program? What are the things that you're hoping to get out of it? And then we provide resources to the mentors that are aligned with those goals. But this is really, we want to remove as many barriers as possible. And we want to give students, both mentors and mentees, the opportunity for this relationship to develop authentically. It is that authentic connection and that deep connection that drives the insights that the Arizona Online team and other partners of ours are seeing, right? When students feel comfortable, they feel seen, they feel heard, they're able to share more about what their experience is, and that's able to inform the team. Arizona, please feel free to add anything to that. And I'll also just pose the second question to you. Is the graduate mentor component optional? And if you want to talk a little bit about the program design and how you kind of put that together.
Now, I'll hop in here, Emily. For MentorCats across the board, it isn't a requirement for any of our student populations. It's something we encourage and promote through the ways we communicate about it with our success coach team as they're meeting with students, and then through communications and targeted outreach. But the key in that equation is making this a value add. They have busy lives and lots of other things going on. And so if we expect students to meaningfully jump in and engage in these opportunities, we have to tailor these opportunities in ways that actually are applicable and accessible for them. And so for us, I've seen a lot of great questions in the chat asking about how the mentors are trained and what the thresholds are for a mentor to become a mentor. We tried to make it, honestly, the bare minimum. The point is about peer-to-peer connections. We're not expecting these peer mentors to be paraprofessionals who know everything about the university. That's not the point. The point is about student-to-student connections, having somebody who they can build an authentic relationship with, and then helping those mentors have a toolkit of resources that we've worked together with Mentor Collective to provide so that they can access the resources and information to help get that student either flagged and on our radar or connected to the right resource at the right time. So we're not expecting them to be mini employees. We're expecting them to be students, and doing that and offering this in a platform and in a way that's easily accessible for them in their busy lives.
I love that. I know that we do tend to see across the collective significantly higher levels of engagement when this is optional, when students are choosing to engage and participate in this. So I'd love to, again, ask all three of you, what is something that you want your peers on this call to know about your experience? Carmen, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. I encourage, each of you to look at those opportunities or cornerstones of the student experience at your respective campus communities, and really think about ways that you can take that best practice, learn from what we know works for the in-person student experience or a traditional student audience, and then have that creativity to think, how can we translate this? How can we re-envision this in ways that are actually going to resonate with the populations that we support and serve? I think that has been the secret sauce in what we've done with this program and in other success initiatives that we do, that we're not trying to create a third rail or some separate total entity, but instead trying to work from within and find ways to innovate, not only for our population, but in ways that help support the broader student body at the University of Arizona and helping to make our institution a more accessible place for students like those who we serve in Arizona Online.
Heidi,
All right. Yeah. Sorry. The chat's keeping me real busy. I mean, the main thing is that, the experience with Mentor Collective has solidified that doing the thing that's best for our students is also the thing that's best for our institution, and finding the right partners and empowering our students to really be agents within their own success is something that we need to do more. And I think as we do this, we look at the data, I think these are all in alignment. And anybody on the call who wants to reach out and talk about the experience and how we did it, we're all here. We love to share. I mean, I know in some ways some people on the call are competitors, but we're also all in the same boat, that we believe in online education. We believe in supporting our students. There's a big market out there. There's enough pie for all of us. So let's work together, and again, reach out and let's work to make everything better for our students.
I think I'll just add that I think it's so important, especially in the online environment, that we are intentional about building systems where students can make connections, because they do feel isolated. And I think it's just so important that we do offer that kind of opportunity for students. I think, it's hard for them to find that on their own. Sometimes they do in these online classes, but if we can put these systems in place for them, it just is so much more successful.
I love that. I think that demand and appetite for mentorship being coupled with making it really easy for students to access these opportunities is part of what's driving such significant success for the Arizona Online program. So I just want to highlight Mentor Collective as a source of insights, as you've seen throughout this call, creating this culture of engagement specifically for an online population, creating opportunity for them to have those meaningful, authentic connections, and really to feel more connected to their institution. Being mindful of time, I just wanted to move to our last poll. Please let us know if you would like to learn more about how Mentor Collective can support your institutional goals. I also want to take a moment to thank our incredible team from Arizona Online. I'm fortunate to work with this team on a fairly regular basis, but I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have had you on this webinar. We really appreciate all of the work that you're doing in driving the support and the student success at the institution. And we're very excited to grow with you and support your growth and support your student success strategies.
I want to say thank you to everybody that joined. This was fantastic, and the chat just shows like how engaged people are with student success, and it's really uplifting. And it's morning out here, so it's a great way to start our day.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We will be sending out a copy of the recording. We appreciate you spending this time with us. We hope it was very informative, and we're excited to continue the conversation. Again, Arizona team, thank you. Thank you for all of your support and your dedication to student success.